Okay, this little boy said you better do a video with me. No patience whatsoever. Alright guys, so I do want to talk about the motor that everybody installs, which is the QS. You got the 5000, I think that's a 203, and then the 273 or something like that, which is the 8000. And so everybody asks me like, what motor are you using, right? And I says, I would like to try out the QS, but the price, especially after COVID, all the prices, guys, went 50%. I looked at Alibaba, and everything is 50% higher than it was. So the 5000 QS is the entire kit, which is the display, the controller, and also the motor is about $500. Okay, and that is without shipping. All right. So the 8000 watt with the 5000 comes with a 100 amp. It's it comes with a 100 amp Subaton. You can go as little as 80 amps, and but in Alibaba it comes with 100, and that price is 500. Okay, if you want 150, the Subaton, that's going to run you about $150 more. So it's going to be about 620 or so that I looked, and I talked to a supplier, and if you are doing the 8000 QS, it was a 273. That motor is going to run you roughly $1,000. Okay, you get the Sabaton 150 and Peak 300, and 72 volt and I believe 94 volt operational voltage. Most of them are the Sabatons, all the way up to 90s over there, which I've noticed not it's not popular, but um, quickly about the build that I had, we talked about earlier. So the guy ended up getting the 3000 watt system, okay, and also, well, you know what? I'll shoot a different video. Let's not forget about it. But we'll do another video to that one. Speaking of the motors, so yeah, the motors. So back in the days, an 8000 watt motor QS, what is about fully delivered was about $600. That was the top song, song from the suppliers. That's what they were singing. Every one of them sang the same song, 600 by shipping and handling. Now it's the opposite. The 5000 QS motor is about 500 plus shipping and handling. So shipping is at about $189, and this is the air. By sea, it's about 120. Okay, but the air comes in about 2 to 3 weeks, and the shipment it comes in about usually 2 months. Since the COVID and the ports were or are overcrowded, they really aren't anymore overcrowded. But the government is not gonna really tell you, yeah, 6 months, 7, 8, 9 months later, our ports are still crowded with ships waiting outside. So they're not gonna tell you that, right? So um, that time frame for sea port delivery is about 3 to 6 months right now as we speak. So it's pretty bad, and it is at about $120 shipment, right? But anyway, so you can also go locally. You can go to eBay.com. You can go to Amazon Prime and get all these motors, okay? But the problem is it's costing easily double the money what's Alibaba asking, right? Um, Alibaba, you're able to negotiate if you get more than one or two motors. They'll work with you. But anyway, so these prices are very hyped up, right? So I do not suggest anybody to buy any motor whatsoever. So this is what I suggest, right? And I had few clients do that. When I told them about the price for QS, they were like, "Wow, that's just this bike defeats the purpose of me, building a bike or having a bike built because it's costing me almost 4 times what would any good quality brand bike cost me." Because literally, if you look right, if you get the enduro frame, which is shipping $600, okay, shipping $600. Then if you get the QS, I think 20, which is a squarish frame from aluminum, that also runs you about $600, okay, with shipping and handling. So it's tough. It's really a tough decision. It really it's up to your budget, how much budget you have, right? So I would love to have a battery that has 150 amp BMS. Unfortunately, the continuous BMS put out is 50, and top peak it is 100. That only means that it peaks out for about 3 seconds or so. But in reality, oh shoot, I gotta put my milk away. But in reality, it really doesn't matter because at the end of the day, my bike, my bike, I wasn't going for the speed. My entire purpose for my bike was it wasn't speed, it was distance. So when you build your bike, you gotta see, are you building for off road or are you building for on road bike? Are you building for speed? Are you building for completely off road? Anyway, so you see my bike, right? Street tires, 50 amps on the battery, on the controller, pushing the battery at 50 amp BMS, peak 100, right? So 50 amp hour battery at 72 volts, peaks out at 84, and also 100 continuous, and the controller can only put out 80, right? With my weight, 250 pounds, flatland, I hit 47, 48. Okay. If I was younger and if I was lighter, that would be a different story. Okay. So that was my purpose of my build. Now again, I'm trying to make this video very, very short. But what else do you have besides QS motors, Maxxis, 3 turbo motors, and any other motors, right? Villanium or some other motors. That's different category. Villanium motors are what was it? 750 watts, 1,000, and a 1,500. There's no way you want to use those motors, right? I had the 1,000 and was whatever, off the subject again. And then you have the big boys, right? The 3,000, the 5,000, and the 8,000. So now, getting to my point after 8 minutes of this video is that you don't have to go with the brand name motor. You can go with non-brand motor. That motor will cost you about $200, and that motor will be rated at 5,000 watts. Okay, non-brand means that Alibaba in China went, or the Chinese population that makes all our batteries for Tesla and Chevy Volt and Toyota Prius, they make these batteries, right? And of course, Tesla trademarks it, and now it's a Tesla battery, right? We own it. Well, that's not what it is here, right? But what I'm saying is these motors or these batteries that never were trademarked are still out there. And if you get a QS motor, you're paying for the name. And I'm not saying the non-brand battery is better than QS, or the QS motor is actually better than the non-brand. But the reality is, I personally think they're the same. And okay, Bolton bikes right now, right? And a Area 13, now they call it. So Bolton bikes, I know you guys are very familiar with Bolton bikes and Area 13. This young man, okay, when he orders his bikes, okay, and this is what I think, this is what I know, this is what I've done, and every other supplier does it. You are looking at Alibaba, you see a bike, and all you do, you buy the bike, and you print your badge on the bike, like a big B, right? And like my bikes that I have sold previously to customers, custom made, it was showing max, right? MAX. So lots of times they have max speed, you know what I mean? Or Mod Max. Okay, my very first bikes were Mod Speed, now they're Mod Max, right? And it has this. Well, anyway, I'm not gonna talk about my business, but this is how they do it, right? So this young man can take this $5,000 motor, and he can print whatever he wants on the motor, and he can name that motor whatever he wants, and now it's his. Do you know what I mean? Or like these non-brand motors, they have no writing except kind of some sort of a VIN number, and that's it. They have no name, okay? And Alibaba, the Chinese supplier, will tell you, look, this is my motor, right? All that means that it was winded all together with all the wires. If everybody knows how the motor looks, it was put all together, and at the end of the manufacturing of the item, it was never stamped, and nobody ever claimed it as their motor. Okay, so let's say I called up Alibaba and I said, I need 500 motors, and I want the QS motors, right? So of course they wind up all these motors, and boom, they stamp it with a QS motor. Okay, but folks, what I'm suggesting here in this video, okay, I'm suggesting that, and again, there is no non-brand, okay, motor that is rated at 8,000 watts. You would have to go with a QS, all right? Now, when these guys tell you 8,000 watts, 10,000 watts, 16,000 watts, 30,000 watts, it really isn't, okay? It really isn't, because because if I take 72 volt and I multiply this 72 volt by 100, it's 7200. Okay, that's 7200 watts. That's what they're getting this wattage from. Okay, which is bullshit lie. So you can, because if you have 72 multiply, okay, let's say he's doing 200 what do you call 200 amps, right? So 72 by 2 for, okay, he gets freaking 11,000 watts. That's where he's getting it from. Okay, so these motors are not 12,000, 14, 16, 24,000 watts. It's whatever voltage, which is usually, if they're telling you it's either 72 or 94, okay, volt operating system. And now you take the amps you're pushing into the system, which, let's say we're going to use a very even number, okay, a very even number with this calculation. We're going to take the 94 volts and we're going to multiply it by 4, okay, it's almost 10,000 watts, okay. So now what happens is, if you don't multiply by 10, okay, it's just, so now the higher amps you're pushing, the higher watts you're accumulating, right? So I can still have 72 volt operating system, okay, and if I put it by 200 amps, right, 200 amps, that's pretty much gonna give me about 20,000 watts. So there is no system that has 20,000 watts. It's not rated for 20,000 watts. This is how much you're pushing to the motor, okay? And the 8,000 watt motor could take the 20 watt peak on it. Not for too long, it's going to overheat it, okay? And again, these bikes aren't operating continuously at 16 or 20 watts in it, 20,000 watts. It's peak operation, you know? And if you are putting 16,000 watts on your bike, you're out of your mind, okay? You can also use thermal fluids. You can inject the thermal fluid into the rear hub, and it will cool it that way. You can, when you inject the thermal fluid, you can also use the heat sink, and that drastically, it doesn't bring down the operation temperature. What it does, it makes the temperature go when you stop riding, right? It makes the temperature go down really fast, right? So let's say you're 100 Celsius, right? You're at 100 Celsius or whatever you want to do, 100 Fahrenheit, right? And you're operating the motor, and the 100, hypothetically, let's say, is the cutting point. That's when the motor boils. You are there, and then you stop. The time for you to cool down with the thermal oil, okay, and the heat sink will take approximately 3 minutes. Okay, if you don't have thermal oil, usually injected in a brushless motor on a site, and you don't have the heat sink, it will take 20 minutes or so or longer. So that's the difference. That's why, how does that work? So when you're going up the hill and your bike hits the 100 Fahrenheit and you have thermal oil going down the hill, okay, you cool off in about a minute. Now, if you don't have the heat sink, you're going up the hill, you warm up all the way to 100, and then when you go down, let's say the trip down, the distance travel down the hill is 1 minute. And in 1 minute, your motor will cool down, let's say, 2% because you don't have the thermal fluid and you don't have the heat sink. Where with heat sink, in one entire full minute, you will cool down 100%, and here you have cooled down only 2%. Okay, so that's the whole thing, and that's why lots of people put the thermal oil and they buy the heat sink, which is crazy overpriced because it's $80 in US and it's $80 in Alibaba. And I have lots of customers requesting the thermal fluid, okay, and the heat sinks. And I've done 3 bikes, okay, and on 3 bikes I have only made on each bike $40. And I am responsible for drilling a hole, okay, and putting the heat sinks, which is a pain in the ass, but I do have a way of doing it pretty much in less than 3 minutes, the entire project, right? But I'm only making $40, okay. So right now, U.S. is always bad with humid and things like that. So I tell lots of guys to do the heat sink. Um, I don't tell them because the season is slow. We're in the winter right now. I tell them because, folks, I want you to all be ready for the season. Now, it defeats the point when you have a beautiful bike and that bike is sitting either in your bedroom or your living room or your garage, whatever it is, and you can't use it because you're broken down. You took it for one ride and you broke down. And now you're broken down. It takes you days, weeks, months to fix the machine. So this is what I suggest for the season. Okay, spare controller. Okay, and make sure you have a spare screen. Okay, obviously Allen heads, Allen screws. Okay, and I think you're good to go. So usually what happens is the controller or the screen or a thumb throttle or twist throttle, whatever you have. I would not go with a twist throttle. I've seen a video on YouTube where amateur wasn't really um, familiar with the twist throttle, and that's why I don't like twist throttle because of that reason. He hit some pedestrian. Was it pedestrian or was it a bicyclist? Another bicyclist because he was passing him all over. This is LA, and got into a really bad accident. The guy was in pain, couldn't really move. Like I hope the guy wasn't paralyzed. Anyway, long story short, the dum dum. I'm gonna call him a dum dum, right? And the other one was John Doe. They both collided. The regular bicyclist was hurt really bad. This dum dum, right? So John Doe is laying on the floor. The dum dum is like he has the stealth bomber, and he's like checking on the bike and this and that, blah blah blah, right? He's really concerned about the bike, mind you, because he wants to take a walk really fast, right? He doesn't want to deal with the injuries because it's a lawsuit waiting to happen. So what he does, he picks up the bike and he yanks the throttle, and this is the owner of the bike, and the bike it fucking flies in the air because the rear wheel obviously gets a traction on a pavement or asphalt, and it rips in the air, and all you can see the wheel in the air and the bike, and he's holding the bike. I'm like, what the fuck? That's the biggest mistake, folks. Okay, but that's why you don't do twist throttle. You do thumb throttle. Now imagine you're sitting there and these beautiful, nice kids, 12, 8, 14 years old kids, says, oh my goodness, you got such a beautiful bike. Okay, nice. Now, one of these kids comes over, okay, and first thing they do, they twist on the throttle. And what happens to you? You take off. You don't take off. You fall down on the floor. The bike takes off and probably either it's a runaway, takes off, hits somebody, falls on somebody. You talking about a 200-pound bike. You got to be more responsible than that, okay? The guy had a stealth bomber, and that thing was not any less than 150 pounds. So that 150-pound bike is in the air doing all kinds of fucking, crazy flips and things like that, and you are the owner and you're being irresponsible. So that's how it goes. So it was a sad day, and what I'm saying to you guys, forget about the twist, man. You're not on a motorcycle. Get the thumb throttle. Get the thumb throttle. Seriously, get the thumb throttle. You have a down thumb throttle or sideways. I have switched over to, not I personally, but with my customers, I switched over to thumb throttle a long time ago. Everybody that comes to me, this is neighbors, this is Craigslist, this is Let Go, this is all kinds of applications that I'm using. Everybody comes to me, I recommend thumb throttle. So my son has let me see if I can get you off of it, right? So this is what my son has, right? He has this guy, all right, with pedals. As a matter of fact, you know what? Let me charge this guy because I want him to go out later, right? This is sorry guys, this is a 36-volt operational system, so it's not a beast. Sorry, I'm so close to the camera. It's not a beast, but where's the charger? Here's the charger, right? But it is a great bike for a teenager like my son, 10 years old. Oh, let me see. I still got a tree. Is it lit up? Let me see if it's lit up. Yeah. All right. So it's charging, right? But it is a great bike. Where's the light over here? It is a great bike for teenagers. It's awesome. It is really awesome. So I think you should guys get a bike like that for your kid. He also has the Elite BMX. So in the summer, throughout the entire day, he does the Elite BMX, and at nighttime he'll do this bike. In the winter, he completely will do this bike. But it's really nice because at night he doesn't want to sweat. So whatever, he just goes with his friends and they just chill out. So yeah, so every customer that comes around to me, anybody asks me about the throttle operation, I should always go with the thumb. Okay, I understand Saran would never settle for thumb throttle, because lots of guys will say, well, how the hell is a motorcycle or a dirt bike electric if it's not twist throttle? It has to be twist throttle. It cannot be thumb throttle because they're just gay and not practical. Look, it is practical, okay? And it is not going to make you look any weaker, any less feminine, okay? It's pretty much the personality on the bike. I saw this one video. It was extremely respectful rider. I mean, even though he could do 70 miles an hour, this guy was doing literally 40. Used his hand signal, was very polite to people. Unbelievable. I want every rider to be polite. I want every rider to, you know, follow the rules of the road, because electric vehicles or electric bikes aren't going nowhere. They are coming in, okay, to our everyday living lifestyle. And as to me, I would never even think about traveling with my electric bike to work as a commute. But now I really want to do it. And I want to do it because I will save money and I will enjoy it more. I will not waste time in traffic. I would enjoy the sceneries, okay? And I will enjoy the trip itself, you know? And sitting in the car in the traffic and traveling for 2 hours in the traffic, distance, you talk about distance of 21 miles takes you 2 hours to travel. It's ridiculous. What is that? 1 mile, a freaking